in terms of, starting this as a new career and um, in a new area, people ask for experience, right? Previous experience. And I'm sure you'll discuss this in your classes and even during this evening sessions. But how difficult it is to kind of transition and to start a career or to land a job with no prior experience in BA.
If you ask me from the difficulty perspective, because we have not done this in the past, I would say it's going to be really difficult. But it's not doable. It's not something which is, hey, I can't do it or nobody can do it. And as I said in my previous class, right, doing this job is easy. Dealing with people at office is more difficult. So this, if I want to just have you clear the interviews, I can do that in 1 week. But I can just give you the material. I can work with you on preparing that, and you'll be able to crack the interview. Right? That's not the goal. The goal is to make sure to go through this journey, to understand the jargons, to understand how people react in different situations. We are going to cover those case studies even in these classes. Once we know that, we will feel a little more comfortable when we start our job, and working with people will be little more easier. Working as a BA or a PO, it's purely a people-oriented job, right? And Scrum Master is like even managing them. It's one step ahead of them. So I would just stick to our strength in our framework that we're doing in the class, and it will make your life easy. Difficult is subject is not difficult. What's difficult is to put in the effort and stick to it. Right. So as long as we put that effort and we are like really behind it, like this is our baby, and we'll put the similar effort and similar care for it, nobody can stop you to get this. Right. So subject is not the difficult choice. It's more about the personality and the passion or aggression to achieve this.
Okay.
I think some other folks were planning to join, but I think we can get started. They'll probably catch up as we move forward in the class. So I like to keep these sessions really short. It's more like a midweek catch up, and at the same time discussing some interview questions. And these sessions I can see sometimes go beyond 30 minutes, up to 45 minutes sometimes, but not in the beginning. As we make more progress in the classes, you'll have more questions, and it will be more engaging. So the goal is, every week we take 2 classes, like on Saturday and Sunday. We learn a lot of things, right? But learning them is one thing. How could I use them in the interview? How could I find out that what kind of questions will be asked in the interview? So goal is that every week we'll be covering those interview questions, and I'll be giving you an example how to speak on those questions and start preparing for them from like this week onwards, right? So if you see here, the first thing is the STAR technique. Before you answer anything in the interview, you need to remember this technique called STAR, which is situation, task, action, and results. So any interview, doesn't matter whether it's BA, PO, or you're giving interview in your career about some additional thing. You really want to stick to this STAR technique as much as possible, because the person who's going to interview you, he or she does not have any prior knowledge about you or about the work that you have done. So when we give information in an unorganized way, it becomes really difficult for someone to understand what exactly the person has worked on. So STAR is like a movie, right? Hey, tells you about the situation where you were, what you were doing. Task is like what exactly you should have been doing in that particular situation. Once that happens, what did you do, and what was the result out of it, right? So quick example would be, hey, there was a Titanic movie. Titanic movie was based on some ship that sank, I think probably 100 years back. I'm just making up a story, right? The task was to create a movie on that, and action was mostly the people who created this movie. They really captured the love story in that, and the result was that someone died at the end, and the entire ship just sank. Just as an example, this is just at a very broad level, but we will talk this in more detail about these actual examples and actual questions that can be asked in the interview. So in terms of your project or examples that you want to use, whatever projects we are covering in the classes, that could be very well your examples in your interview, because these are like real projects and real examples that you can use. Even when I go to my office and I perform some job, I still use these examples that we're doing in the class. It's that relevant. There is nothing that we're doing in the class which is irrelevant or which is not practical. The biggest difference between the person who has experience and who doesn't have experience is what I found is when people have experience, they talk about examples more. They are more confident. And people who don't have experience, they do not have that level of confidence, or they lack in examples. Even sometimes people, when they have a lot of experience, they still lack in examples. So I think to up our game, the first thing we have to always do is understand and create stories. Stories are nothing but examples that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to give you some examples on these questions. So before I move forward, any questions on this, on the technique? And you'll see how to answer that, how to use this technique. I'll be doing this on the spot in front of you. I have not prepared any of these questions before. It will be purely on the spot because you don't want to sound like a robot, right? So last week, what we did was we tried to understand when a new product or a project is being built in the company. There are a lot of things that goes behind it, like at an executive level, before a BA joins the company, right? And there are a lot of other things that goes after that when a BA joins in the company. So this answer is like in twofold. What do you do to start the product and then to launch the product? There are variety of things that you do in between, and we'll start with first. I'll just give you the complete answer on this today. But I think whatever you don't know right now, please know that you'll be knowing that in next few classes in this week and next week. The second is what kind of documentation we create or we have created so far. We'll talk about that. And if you remember, Sabnit and I were having some discussions about the requirements where I was trying to find out the problem statement, right? You'll have a similar discussion within the company. Sometimes you'll work with a person who is really nice. Sometimes you'll work with a person who is not nice or who does not have enough knowledge. So how would you navigate through those situations? And what is the latest project you're working on? So these are, I can guarantee you from these 4 questions, there will be at least 2 questions in your every interview. Okay. And this first question can very well be extended to tell me about yourself as well. And we'll talk about that. There are various flavors in it. These are all BA related questions. The same questions can be asked for a PO, but when PO is working in office, he or she has some additional responsibilities than what is listed here. And we're going to talk about that. So that's the framework for today. These are the questions and this is what we're going to cover. Any questions on this?
No.
Okay. I'm going to record this session. What you can also expect later in the sessions is we'll be doing group interviews here. Like I'll literally put people on the spot here to take away their fear and like I'll just make you speak, right? So the same answer that I'm going to give, I'll probably just say that you have to give it in your own words. But you can expect all those things in next few weeks, not right away. I first want to make sure that I'm preparing you for, I'm giving you right direction and I'm preparing you for it, right? Before we jump into those kind of discussions and putting you on the spot. And we can also take one group interview, like, and we can all give the feedback to that person. Hey, these are the good things that you said, and these are the bad things in the interview. And then we have to improve from there. So I've seen these sessions are very helpful and it really helps you take away your fear. Okay. Any question regarding resumes or regarding job search or anything else is not part of this discussion that I'll be conducting one-on-one sessions with you all and bringing you up to the speed on that. Go ahead, Samnit.
So I think I missed a little part of it where you've covered the STAR technique. Is that just, those points are just for us to remember, or, you know, the person who's interviewing us, they also know the STAR technique? I mean,
some know that, some don't.
Okay.
And it's mostly for us because when you give information in this way, it's easy for someone to understand that.
Okay.
Right? That's the
And
only purpose. So as a BA and product owner, one biggest thing is that whenever we say something, it's 100% our responsibility to make sure that other person is following us. And if not, then we have to take right effort, or we have to probably change our way to make sure the other person understands this. Right? So when you're in the interview for an hour, every single word that you have said, other person needs to be following that. He should not get disinterested. At the same time, he should exactly know what you're talking about, which means you should know at what level you should talk and in which flow you're going to speak.
okay.
Right? Those two are very key elements. And I'll probably demo you a couple of things in the class right now when we're going to cover these interview questions. We may not be able to cover everything, but I'll at least get started, and we have a lot of time to cover this kind of things in future and talk about that.
So in these interview questions, we don't cover the W5H that you covered in the previous.
We do, and but we don't say it as W5H.
And
over here,
okay.
this is the project about it. We just don't say it is W5H because that's not a known term to everyone. It's purely the framework that I've created for myself. It may not be known to everyone else. But if you want, we can say that, and right away after that we have to back it up. This is what I mean by that. People will not have an idea what is W5H.
Got it.
Cool. So I think let's get started. So I'll talk about this question first. What are the documents or artifacts you've created so far? So last week we learned how to create business case, how to create scope document, right? And business case. So I'll just give you an example, right? What is there in the business case? Business case is about problem statement, solution, confidence level, and some key performance indicators. And that's all you have in the business case. Every company has different ways to create business case, but I think this is at a minimum is expected in business case. Scope document, very similar to business case. In addition to that, you'll be talking about the scope of the project, stakeholders involved, risks, constraints, and whatnot. We have not started talking about business requirements document, but we started talking about the wireframes and mockups last week. So questions could be, hey, for every document that you create, there could be a couple of questions around that. First is, what are the documents or artifacts you have created? Second is, for each document, they can ask you, what are the components of the document or the artifacts you have created? Give me an example, right? And second would be components, artifacts. There is a little more, but I think it will be applicable more for business requirement document, and we'll talk about that. So this is the underlying question for each document that you have created. Components is nothing but index, just for your knowledge, right? What the document consists of. Whenever you write any book, there is an index in that, right? So that people can know what are the chapters in this book. Similarly, as a BA, whenever you start working, you are usually creating a book for software development. The software that you're going to build, you're going to create a book for that. So, hey, give me an example of a business case. Sure. So typically when I was working in the past, I had got an opportunity to work on few business cases, creating few business cases with my senior leadership team. And the key things that we were looking for mostly were identifying the problem statement. This is the biggest thing that we had in the business case, just to make sure that we understand problem really, really well before we start defining any solution. And once we identify our problem statement after having multiple meetings with the business stakeholder, I would really work closely with them to understand what is the solution that we have on the table, right? And it may not be just from one person. I'll be interacting with several folks in the company, and we'll schedule several meetings with them to understand. We have subject matter experts in the meeting. We have people who are working in this company for a long time. They understand business really, really well. So we go into this collaborative brainstorming session where we come up with the solution, and we all agree to that. Once we do that, as a company, we want to make sure that we identify the key performance indicators, which is the success criteria for this project. And So again, I work with this group. I come up with some preliminary examples from my side that, hey, if we are working on a platform, online platform, we want to make sure that we have 50,000 customers who are going to sign in every month, right? In 6 months down the line, that 50,000 can very likely will become 100,000 customers. This is just one example of the success criteria. Second success criteria would be that, hey, we have a payment, we have a promotion going around, and we have 2 different prices for the promotion. We find that for the option that is more reasonable in terms of rate, that can probably being accepted by customers 60% of the times, and the payment which is higher can be accepted for 40% of the times. So this is another success criteria. So we define the success criteria. We have our technical team, we have our developers who will tell us how feasible is this product, how much confidence we have. So this is the mindset we have when we create the business case. And I'll pause there for a second. So if you see, I'm trying to relate it to my past example, right? In the past, what have I done? I'm not saying in terms of theory that, hey, business cases, there is a problem statement, there is a solution, there is the key performance indicator, and some confidence level. I'm not saying it that way. You have to make it sound like it's along with your experience, what you have done in the past. This is how you have done it, right? And don't get scared about this right now. We are just practicing this. We are just building muscle, right? And the more we do this, in 5 or 6 weeks from now, you will exactly know how to give this kind of speech and what to say and what not to say. My answer was a little more longer. You should not be spending more than 30 to 60 seconds on this. And on the top answer, the number 1 here, this is mostly 90 seconds to 2 minutes, not more than that for first 2. This is more the documentation, so 30 to 60 seconds. I'll give it one more try. So, and I'll
have a
take an
question.
example. Go ahead, Revant.
I have a question, Shrey.
Yeah, go ahead, Shrey. Are you speaking?
Hello?
You're on mute.
So in the business case, what are all the people that we have in meetings with? Like, what are their roles? Like,
so you will have tech lead.
stakeholders.
You will have tech lead. You will have product director. You will have legal and compliance team. You will have tech lead, product director, legal and compliance team, subject matter expert, and project or
Manager.
product accountable person, and project manager. Yes, mostly a senior project manager. So this is your audience. Stakeholders involved. So if you want to take an example again, we created a business case in our last class over here. So if I look at this, I'll create something on the spot for the tutoring project that we did. Or if you want to talk about something else, we can talk about that. But just to give you an example, right, how it works. So there was something we said about, I think I removed that statement. So it's more like a mission statement for a company, right? So I would probably say, hey, for the Uber project that we are doing, Uber mobile application. So business case for Uber mobile application would be, we are a local company, and we see that a lot of customers who wants to request ride from us, they have to either call us or they have to book a ride after like coming to our office, right? And both the ways are not really good ways for customer to book a ride with us, because they are very time consuming, and we are not able to increase our business at the same time because these are not scalable approach. So our goal is, this is the problem statement, right? People who are trying to book the ride they're not able to do it on time. This is my problem statement. The solution that the things that we're trying to offer here is we want to build an online platform where customers can book ride 24/7. And they will get confirmation instantly. And it should work so seamlessly that the moment they book the ride, there is a potential that they can get the driver at their pickup location within like minutes. This is our goal. This is the vision, right? And from where we are right now and where we have to be, it can take probably about a year from now. And our confidence level is that with the team that we have, we can really make it happen within a year from now. That's not a problem at all. I think the key, some of the key success business criteria that I would be thinking about is we'll probably have, when we go live in pilot, when we go live in first few states only, we can expect about 100 rides every few hours from each of those states. That is the business criteria I'm thinking about. And second one is, we want to really see that customers do not have to wait for getting their rides. Like the moment they request for a ride, we'll give them both the options to request for a ride for a future date or request ride instantly. And I am expecting that we will get more success in the later option, which is requesting ride instantly. So this is our business case. Does this make sense? So I talked about the situation. What is the situation? Problem. What is the task? Our solution. Right? What is the result? Key success criteria. Am I right? Are you guys following? Yes or no? Getting complicated, getting nervous. It all comes from experience. Don't worry. It's my job to make you reach that goal. I'm just trying to give you an example so that you know where you're starting and after 6 weeks, where you have to be. Right? And we will cover all these details in the class, so don't worry. I think you guys are not saying any single word.
I think maybe the nervousness, it comes from, how we are going to talk. And especially, if we are going to talk to such, a team of executives where, with such big titles, and then we are all new. And so it kind of, personally speaking, I think I'm questioning myself and I'm keeping myself in that situation like, oh my God, do you think I'll be able to communicate and talk about all this stuff? So
let me give you an example. You all have talked with these people. It's just that you guys don't remember. When you put your baby in a daycare, right? You're talking to the business owner. Do you have a fear? No, right? When you're going to the restaurant, if food is not good, do you fear in voicing your opinion? But you're talking to business owner, right? So I think it's absolutely fine to be nervous. It's absolutely fine to not have that confidence. But what I'm saying is that that thought should not really stop you. Right? Because we are able to do this. The reason you are able to talk to a restaurant owner and the daycare sitter is because you are the one who is giving money. So that's the reason that you're confident. That's the bottom line, right? The person who pays money has more confidence always. We have to listen to it. Over here, we are not paying money. That's the only difference. But we do have that confidence within ourselves. We are people who are going to talk. We don't mind about that. It's just a polite way of talking out our opinion or our feedback. That's it, right? And we're going to learn that in the class. Don't worry about that. So I often get this feedback when I'm taking this session, like first 1 or 2 times in the batch. And after that, people get comfortable with this style because this is completely new, completely different than what you had been doing in the past. Right. And I think that one of the biggest reason you paid me money is because you want to learn something new, which is different. Right. So it's my job to make you reach those goals. Don't worry about that. The biggest thing, again, I want to stress is situation, task, action, and result. If you see, situation is problem, solution is task, action, what was your role to make that project a success, and last is the success, which is result. You will always talk in these 4 terms. If I want to talk about the project, what is the latest project you're working on? Just same example, right? Uber application. I'm going to use the exact same statement now. If you remember when we were checking this appdude.com, we had an app for tutor here. And if you remember, our answer was pretty straightforward from there. More products, tutor, Uber for tutors. So over here, if you remember, we discussed and we said that this is your answer. Do you guys remember this? Your problem statement and your solution. After that, what are the results that you achieved? This is your answer. For any project that you work on, if you say it in this way, it will be easier for someone to understand what did you work on. Right? It's more like a 2 minutes trailer of the entire movie. So we, as a BA or a PO, one of our biggest job is to talk in people's language, right? So when you're talking with executive group, they don't want too much details. They want like more of a trailer, right? Hey, what this movie is going to be about. Just tell them in 2 minutes and your job is done. When you're talking to your manager, that person may need more information, probably 30 minutes time. So explain that meeting should be only at a 30-minute level. When you're talking with the person who's going to create the movie, you need to really spend 6 months with that person, right? So you need to talk at that level. So based on your audience, your time limit and your answer format changes. So the best way to convince everyone is this STAR technique. It cannot fail. People are used to listening stories, and when you make it sound as a story, people are going to remember that. If they've taken 10 interviews in a day, this answer is going to stand out and they're going to remember you after they hung up on you, which means that you're going to go to the next step in the interview. It's not that difficult. If you talk about, take any random example, right? Let's forget about BA for a second. I think we are at a time, but let's take 10 more minutes. So let's forget BA for a second, right? If you want to talk about some random example in our life, what would that be? Using this technique. Go ahead.
I mean, if you go ahead with this, like I have worked in a banking environment. So the first question anybody asked me was, how do you handle a tough customer? So that is like a situation that they are putting in front of me, and how were you able to do? What was your action and what was the result? So I'm just trying to put the dots together. Yes. Mm-hmm. And in here, it's kind of similar, but we are going to be talking about the project that we have done, like in our sessions. So we're going to be joining the dots. Instead of talking about an angry customer, that's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong, but please correct me.
That gives me a really good example as well, right? See, when you are, let's say you are a receptionist, right? Mm-hmm. How it works. Hey, during a pandemic, I was working as a receptionist. So again, I said this word pandemic so that people can remember, hey, we are all in pandemic era. I was working as a receptionist, but my job was very different than the regular receptionist because I was dealing with customers over phone as opposed to dealing with customers when they're walking in my office, because it was all in pandemic area. It was all in pandemic era. This is the situation. The task was, we wanted to make sure that we are still able to get those appointments booked and we are not going out of business. Mm-hmm. So the way I contributed was, whenever someone calls me, I would first of all offer them a good bonus, which is like, hey, thanks for calling us. And just because you called us, there is an incentive. We are going to offer you a 15 minutes free appointment. Right? And now result is, by doing that, we were able to convert more than 80% customers or to patient. Simple STAR technique. Now, if you tell this story to anyone, they're going to remember that. But if I say it in a way, hey, I was on a call. When customer calls me, I offer them some bonus. When they ask me some more questions, this is what I will say. So you see now, so see this format versus this format. It will stick to your head, right? This is the reason we follow this. And it is difficult to master this in one night. Of course, this is not an overnight thing. So we will practice this for next few weeks to get comfortable with this first, and then we'll get to a place where we can master this. Right? Everything starts with a baby step. So this is purely a baby step towards the direction that we want to master this technique in near future. And it can help.
What if the project will be?
So we're going to cover.
What if the project will be healthcare?
Sorry, project will be
in healthcare.
So the example that I just gave right now was from the healthcare, but it could be any project. So I think each one of you, I think, has your own expertise in your background or in your domain areas, and I'll be working with you separately to give you that information.
So we can incorporate those examples in our interview. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Not really.
Not really. So,
I'll
okay.
tell you how to modify that to make it suitable for your interview. But that is the baseline work. That is where we should start first, and then I'll help you to modify that to have it at a level where it should be.
Got it.
Right? Mm-hmm. So again, let's take one more question. I think so. What is business case and project charter? Very similar answers. My answers are not going to change for business case or project charter. The only difference I'm going to add is there are additional stakeholders and additional scope that we're going to talk about. What is the scope of the project? If you remember, this was the scope that we defined. Do you guys remember this from our last class? So I'll just touch base on this scope. This was the high level scope. And stakeholder, who are the stakeholders? These are the same stakeholders that we have here. Okay. So I'll copy this and put the stakeholders here. So the way I answered both index, which is the components of the document, and give me an example. I covered both of these questions in one answer with an example, right? Let's talk about the how do you go about starting a new project. This is where W5H will come in. So question would be question can be asked in different ways. Hey, how do you go about starting a new project? Or have you worked on a project which is like from concept to idea, concept or idea to a launch, right? It's like an idea in your mind and then you launched it. Tell me about a time when you have built a product from scratch. If you must start a new company or project, how would you go about that? These are different ways of putting the same question. Behind the scene, there's this one question. Hey, how are you going to start a new project? That's about it, right? These are just different ways of asking it. So how would we do this? We have covered this in our classes. I'll give you an example again on this one. So, hey, you always have to sound excited, first of all, in your interviews. You'll have to first fake it, but then you'll adopt it naturally. So you have to sound exciting in the interviews, right? Because you need to get attention. And I'm usually a little louder when I speak, but there are other ways also to catch interviews' attention, the way you speak, and everyone has its own strengths and weaknesses. So don't worry about that. So I'll talk about the same project again, the Uber application. So I'll just make up some name right now. Hey, Shrey, hey, Shrey, thanks for asking me this question. I'll be more than happy to walk you through one of my previous projects that we built from scratch. And I really, first of all, thank you for providing me this opportunity to talk through this example. So we were working on a project where the business that we had for a taxi cab, which it was a local business, and we were doing really good. We had multiple franchises, but we wanted to expand that into online business and more scalable, like we can expand nationwide and later international wide. So we had a big question in front of us that, hey, how are we going to do that? How are you going to make it happen? So there were several questions ahead of us, but we basically chose to answer only first 4 or 5 questions in the beginning, which is what exactly we are trying to solve. Why are we trying to build this platform, first of all? And why us, right? Why should our company build this platform and not anyone else? What is the biggest reason? Why do we feel that we'll be successful if we go in this path? So asking those preliminary questions, just biggest why, right? Helped us understand that, hey, these are the challenges that our customers are facing. These are the challenges business is facing. And by combining them together, we found a sweet spot, which was like a win-win situation for both customer and business, right? So How did we come up to those conclusions? We did a lot of market research. We talked to actual customers. We found out what are their needs, right? We listed all those things in a piece of a paper. And we also ran like surveys to like 5,000 to 7,000 customers. After gathering all this information, we found out top 3 or top 5 pain points that customer had and that our business had. We made a correlation between them. And now we started talking about, hey, these are the things we should be handling in the project first. Once we made the decision, I was working with my senior director and I was working with my technical lead and project manager to create the business case to get the funding for it. Once we presented this business case to our executive team, we of course we showed them the benefit and the growth in this product that we're going to create. After doing all those things, we finally got the funding from our executive team because they were really impressed with the understanding that we had and the kind of growth this product can bring into the company. And then we started forming a team. In the team, we started hiring people from different skill sets like business analyst, product owner, developers, quality analyst, and whatnot, right? And after that, my core responsibility was to work with them in gathering more information, finding more requirements, creating the documents like business requirements document, functional requirements document, and working so closely with developer and quality analyst team to make sure that we are delivering a quality product. We are creating and delivering a quality product. And at the end, when the product was released, I was working with actual legal and compliance team within the company, had worked with the company's employees to walk them through this product, gave several demos, and finally, it was a win-win situation where a lot of customers who use this product gave us a really, really good feedback. We were at like 4.8 out of 5 ratings from like first 3,000 rides that we gave. That's the end. I think I did take a little longer, close to 2 minutes, but it's fine. For these answers, you can take close to 2 minutes. But again, you see the format. When you start something from scratch, you cannot just jump into the execution part. Like execution is you start building the software. You cannot do that, right? It's like when you want to look for a house. Are you going to buy the first house that you're going to see? You cannot, right? You will do your research. What is the research? Market research, your competitors. What is the data? What kind of neighborhood it is, right? Data. So these are the same things that we covered in the class. And same example we could use. You just need to replace this Uber example with something else based on your resume. And I'll tell you what it would be when we are coming close to that point. But answers to all this question is a single answer that we just walked through. And I'm just giving you one format right now. I'm not saying this is the best option, but I can at least say if you don't have any other creative ideas, go with this. You will not fail yourself. Or at least 3 out of 5 people are going to accept this. You will not fail every time, right? This is the minimum expectation I would see from the interview perspective. And you guys can be more creative, adding in more flavors and more things from your side. It's completely fine. But at least stick to the standard. I'm giving you a minimum expectation here, right? That this is what they're expecting. Cool. Any questions, guys? You guys were talking a lot in our last class, not today, which is fine. I think you'll automatically gain some confidence after a few classes, and first few classes are always like this. Just go ahead, Shrey.
How many real-time projects we're doing it?
We're going to cover three projects in the class. One from marketing, one for mortgage, and one for mobile application. And these are the projects which are very similar to the ones that I've worked previously in my career, and I've created a similar case study for you all. Where
are we creating the actual like BRD and actual documents? Like, okay,
we are going to create that. We are going to create actual mockups, actual BRD, actual FRD. We are going to write user stories. We are going to understand differences between waterfall and agile. This same thing could have been answered in a different way if it is in agile versus waterfall. And we'll be covering those questions as we learn them. My first job is to make you understand what that is, and second is to speak about them, right? So we are still learning and speaking in parallel about these things. All right. I think that was a good exercise. At least from my perspective, I feel I've taught you something new. It will take some time, but we are building a muscle. We don't have to master this right away. We have 6 weeks to master this. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Look forward for
Can
the
you-
recording. Go ahead, Shrey.
Can you email the recording?
Yes, I'm going to email the recording, and I'm also going to email the question and answers. I mean questions, not answers. Answers is in recording. And I intentionally don't write this down because I don't want us to sound like a robot and really mug up things. Because in interview, if you forget something, you'll be blank. So I want you to write it in your own language, in your own words with which you are comfortable. Everyone has different ways of speaking English, right? So we should stick to our way, to not go out of the blue and try to do something. Don't try to use fancy words. It's not, nobody's going to rate you on English. People are going to rate you on how structured you were when you were talking and how much they can follow. If you can make these two things happen, people are definitely going to put you the next round in the interview, right? And you will get that feeling. If you're going too long on the call, you might feel that the moment you stop, other person will tell you, hey, so what about this? So which means that person was holding back to ask you that question. It's a sign, right? So you need to take a pause. Hey, before I go further, I want to make sure I take a pause here. So when you take the control on the call, right, it will hit that person. Hey, man, I have to listen. Am I listening or am I not? Right? But you will get an idea. I see a lot of times it happens. I have a habit of speaking fast sometimes. So when I say something, sometimes people miss out on those things. So I do take a pause and recheck with them. Hey, regarding this particular topic, do you really want me to dive in deep, or do you have everything that you needed? I actually asked this in the interview. Right? And we have to, because we want to make sure that people are not missing out on things. It's an important discussion, right? But take enough breaks in between, and the interviewers will give you hint. If they're excited, they will say, oh, wow, that was a beautiful story. They'll not shy to express themselves. So you will see how the interview goes. In first few minutes, you'll exactly find out. Okay, and we'll learn those tactics, how to read that interviewer's mind, what to say, what not to say. We have a long way to go. This is just the beginning. All right. Okay, guys, I'll not keep you on call for a longer time. I know it's Thursday evening and tomorrow is Friday. So let's go and have fun so that we can study better on Saturday and Sunday. Cool.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, James.
Yep.